Hello everybody, Beth here from Access Paranormal for this week's I Want to Know, which is all about dealing with ghostly faces and orbs when it comes to social media. Now I know a couple of people are like, oh, it's a bit of a brave subject to kind of broach, but I think it's important because it comes up a fair bit when, as investigators, we use social media to be able to gain opinion or ideas or ways in which we can explain something, and also connect with other investigators as well, who may also have possibly looked at maybe capturing something that could have been interesting or some sort of anomaly as well. So it's a bit of an interesting subject there. Hi Gary, hi Julie, good to see you guys here. So it's a bit of a touchy subject, so I thought, why not? Let's give it a shot. And I was recently inspired by it, so I actually already had a topic sorted out for today, but I felt this one was kind of taking precedence as well, because I've had a couple of experiences of recent where it made me think, yeah, it's time to kind of at least shed some light on how to deal with this particular situation, because it does happen a fair bit. Social media, so social media is great for the paranormal field. It has been great for the paranormal field and paranormal interest and people that are generally interested in it. It's been great in the sense, you get to connect with other people who are interested in this. It still can sometimes feel like some exclusive club. So to be able to connect with other people who are actually just starting out or experienced, it's been brilliant, because you're able to cast your net further. Nothing like it was, 10, 15 years ago. And of course, there's the downfall, where the written word can be taken 6 different ways in 6 different days by 6 different types of people with different backgrounds and ways in which they would read a message and take something and not see it for what its intention truly was as well. Hi Damo, hi Charmaine, hey Rob, good to see you here guys. So it can be a little bit difficult in that regard. So written word can be a bit of a pain because it takes obviously different interpretation, but at the same time, social media can be really, really good because it's helped connect so many people. It is literally, I think it's up there when it comes to, networking as well, in person as well. I think social media is fantastic. So there's pros and cons with that as well. In this particular talk, this session of I Want to Know, we're going to kind of look at it more from a visual perspective. So we're not really talking about EVPs or audio recordings or anything like that, more from photos and videos that get posted. Now, obviously ghost images and anomalies can be explained in certain ways, or possible alternative explanations. Your PAEs for these images generally tend to be dust or moisture, and most of us know this. As I've done in the past, and I've done this with audio as well, as I've actually taken photos in really dusty places, taken photos when it's been raining or if there's been mist or anything like that, and I've not deleted them and gone, oh well, I know that's explainable. I've actually kept it as a reference as well. So many people know that I do that from an audible perspective. If I hear somebody talking, or if I hear possums in the roof here in Australia, it could be raccoons or goodness knows where from where you are from, keeping the audio or visual of something that's explainable can actually be really, really beneficial, because you have a yardstick for be able to comparing for something that you do come up with that you can't explain straight away, so you can actually compare it. So I do that with dust and with moisture and insects and all sorts of stuff. Like if there's something I've seen, oh yeah, it's definitely that, or I think more than likely it will be that, I will still keep it and have it just as your natural file, your explainable file, your environmental file. Most of us know about visual pareidolia or matrixing, the fact that we see faces within certain shapes when there's actually not really a face there. Again, that harks back to our caveman days, where the fact that faces are the most common thing that we see, but also we want to know what faces were familiar and which ones weren't, so we can actually know if we're going to be safe with the people that we're around as well. So, of course, that's something to keep in mind with these images. Also, low light. Sort of like I can say, like it's low, like slow camera shutter speed as well is another thing to keep in mind. Your camera, if you're using one, is struggling under low light conditions, and that's going to cause all sorts of issues with your photos. Yes, most of the time we are investigating at nighttime, but keep in mind, the longer your shutter speed is, or shutter is open, the more chance, because obviously it's trying to get as much light into the lens as possible, any sort of movement, I mean, people think, well, that's what I want. But when it's explainable stuff like a bug or someone walking, it's going to look ghostly because it's trying to struggle with what it's trying to capture. So keep that in mind as well. Slow shutter speeds are synonymous for ghostly images that may pop up possibly on social media. Also, lens flare as well. That's another thing too. You don't actually have to have a direct light source going into your lens in order for you to have lens flare. It can be a reflection from another source. It could be a bounce around. It's because the light, when it bounces around in the lens, is going to bounce about from different angles. So it doesn't actually have to be something that's direct as well. So just because you can't see the light source coming into the photo doesn't necessarily mean it's not there. But there will be clues, and I think that's a whole other different I want to know there as well. But these are things to keep in mind when we see these images that turn up on social media. So that's great. We've got possible alternative explanations, kind of somewhat on how to debunk some of this kind of stuff. We use that word occasionally. But of course, then somebody posts something. So what do you do? There's a couple of reasons. I think they usually, for myself over the years, have found it often falls into one of two categories. You've got the advice, so somebody actually wants advice, or somebody actually wants validation. And it's usually one or the other. Sometimes it's a little bit of both, and that's kind of okay, but generally it's one or the other. So if somebody's wanting advice, firstly, it's going to be difficult in the sense where you weren't there at the time that photo or that video was taken. So you're really relying on their witness testimony on how it all happened. And it's often just the one person. Sometimes if they've posted it somewhere and there are other people that were there at the time, team members or the public or anything like that are able to vouch for it, give their accounts as well, that can kind of help. But it's really difficult to try and find out what actually happened when you weren't there. And to me, being in the moment and seeing something happen and then seeing what was recorded afterwards it's so much easier than it's like trying to diagnose why someone's knees hurt and not knowing their previous history. So it's a stab in the dark. Excuse the pun, literally. And don't hurt yourselves. But yeah, it's keeping that in mind, the fact the environmental conditions, you're going on witness testimony for that as well. Also to keep in mind the fact that, sometimes people may not know their equipment very well, so they may not know a lot about how cameras work or how video cameras work. So sometimes it's a gentle, so have you tried this? What about that? Giving advice to see what level knowledge that they have. Sometimes they'll reveal the fact that, I used a light, but it was pink. It's like, okay, well, you're looking at IR, so, okay, maybe it could have been a shadow cast by blah, blah. So it's gentle by picking up on what they say, as opposed to going, well, you didn't use this, that was crap, blah, blah, blah. It's a work in progress. I give you that. So yeah, finding out that kind of stuff. And also, as I said, helping people understand their equipment as well. So it's not just okay, well, we're looking at the photo, what tools did you use and did you understand them enough? And here's some information you might want to know about that as well. Again, also keeping in mind about low light level conditions, sort of stuff that, again, it plays havoc with equipment from a visual perspective. Obviously, night vision and things like that are there to help us see better, but they are still not infallible as well. So keeping that in mind, and also letting other people know that it's just because it's night vision doesn't mean it's going to be seeing everything in its truest form, particularly reflections as well. But keep that in mind. Then, of course, there are those who wish to have validation for what they've posted. So they believe 100% or mostly, it doesn't even have to be 100%, even if it's like 60, 70%, they were like, yep, this is it. Look at this. I know I was there. Like, I didn't see it. No one was there. I reckon it's paranormal. I reckon it's spirit. And it's like, okay, well, that's cool. Can you give some more information about the context of when you took the photo? But of course, when somebody wants validation, you're up against it before you've started. They don't want you to deconstruct it. They want you to agree. And that's where the big part of a lot of paranormal arguments on online start, is the fact it's not really seeing the signs of how someone's written their post about what they want to show, is actually looking for validation, not looking for advice at all. So, and sometimes it can be difficult. There's a couple of them where someone's posted something and I thought, oh, actually maybe they do want a bit of help with this. And I've kind of gone in, well, maybe it could be this and it could be that. And there's a term that I've learnt in the last couple of years, which is called sea lining. So sea lions are beautiful, mammals and stuff in the ocean. Sea lining is a term that's used where somebody will gently approach you. So sea lions look all friendly and they're very gentle, and they'll gently approach you. But as soon as they think that you're food, they'll go and get you. And that's this kind of mentality where they're trying to gauge you. And as soon as you let them know where you sit, so say, for instance, someone wants validation, they come to me and they're like, I believe that this is completely paranormal, it's a ghost. But they'll say to me, so look, I've taken this photo, I would love your opinion. I'm like, well, actually, no, I think it could be this, or it could be, maybe explained by this way. Oh, well, you have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know why, you even bother, doing what you do, and lots of other things are said, but I can't say them here, so you can get the drift. That's sea lining. That's somebody that's gently gone in and then actually gone for the bite. So, I have been caught in that before, so it's keeping that in mind as well. Also, in saying that, if it's really obvious that they are wanting validation for what they've posted or someone has posted, and you think looking at what they've posted is definitely not something possibly paranormal, back away. Just leave it be. You can't argue with somebody's belief. It's a no-win situation. You're going to aggro yourself, you're going to aggro them, you're going to aggro everybody else. If their intention is, and that's what I mean, the biggest thing is intention when it comes to investigating. It's all different parts, but if their intention is to actually have validation for what they've posted as being paranormal and you don't believe it, don't even walk into the arena. It's not even worth the hassle and all trouble, because it's not going to help the situation. They're not open to hearing anything. So take a step back and go, all right, well, that's great. And then, take your hands off the wheel and step back. So that's the best way to possibly deal with something like that. Another thing is to not take it personally. Don't take anything personally on social media. Nobody knows you from when you're knee high to a grasshopper to where you are now, your life history, how you work, how you write, everything, and it's hard because sometimes when people do post information that they 100% believe, like, this could actually be something paranormal. I was there, and I feel, I felt the spirit as well. So you're dealing with people's paranormal experiences, not just what they've taken. Often there's paranormal experiences in there too, and you can't argue with that because they had that experience regardless of whether it's something paranormal. Again, you can't take it personally when people get into these modes and post this information. You're like, oh no, not again, not another orb. But it happens. And it's knowing when to pick your battles. It's knowing when to see the signs of when somebody generally wants help. It's knowing to not take it personally. As I said, with sea lining, it is a thing, and it's a thing on social media as well, particularly with social media. So keep these things in mind. A couple of we're here to help each other. We're here to advance as much as we can of our knowledge of the afterlife, because it hasn't been proven, but there is something going on, and there are things that people do capture. And there's a couple of things I've seen over the years where I'm like, you know what, I can't explain that straight away. I may in time, but there have been some interesting things. But again, it's very difficult when you're not actually there and you're dealing with other people's recounts of it as well. So awesome. I find that parts are backing away. Yeah, well, exactly. It's sometimes it's almost like if you drop what they call a truth bomb, and it's almost like the bomb goes out and everyone just disappears, and you go like, okay, so ended that conversation. But it's social media. We really just have to pick and choose our battles with it, but see the signs of whether or not someone generally needs help and wants help, and then actually help them out as well. And there are groups that are really quite set up for that. They're quite like my group, the Access Paranormal Learning Lounge, is very much a level-headed, open group. There are other ones as well that I'm parts of, which are great, and they've been really, really helpful for people. I've only seen that recently as well, with someone posting some information. Everyone was like, oh, I wonder what that could be. There was no like, that's crap, you have no idea what you're doing, and making personal attacks. It was actually like asking some really good questions, and everybody was learning. It was like, oh, did someone have a red light source? Or what could that have been? Have you asked so-and-so? And that's what it's about. That's what it should be about. But it's a process. Guys, I look at a photo of a brick wall and the stuff people have seen. Yeah, exactly. So people will see stuff in a brick wall. They'll see faces, or they'll see shapes, or look, you can see a hand, the hand's reaching out because a child died and it's trying to find its way back. It's hard because we use history as a way to help explain some of the stuff that could be happening. So it's a double-edged sword, but being level-headed is the best way you can be about it. Take it in, use it as a possibility. Maybe that was a child, but we can't validate that. There's no way we can at the moment. So let's just make a note of that and then see how we go. People need to be heard, and I think if we close ourselves off too much, then we end up getting too close-minded about it. So great comment, by the way. But hopefully there's some information there for you to mull over and keep in mind. Social media is a great place, but it's also a jungle out there. So try not to get killed, please. But look after yourselves, and yes, keep posting great stuff. And I'll see you next week. Take care. Thank you.